November 2018. John Allen Chow, a 26-year-old American missionary, decided to illegally visit North Sentinel Island in India. The natives of this island are believed to belong to the North Sentinelese tribe, possibly the world's last uncontacted tribe, knowing little about the outside world. Due to his strong Christian beliefs, John was determined to teach Christianity to the people living on this isolated island. To reach the island, John paid a fisherman $300 to transport him, beginning their journey under the cover of darkness on November 14th, 2018, evading the Coast Guards. Carrying his GoPro camera, scissors, a kayak for the rest of the journey, dried fish, a football, and a Bible intended as a gift, John arrived on the morning of November 15th. He instructed the fisherman to wait at a distance while he approached the island alone on his kayak. Upon reaching the shore, he noticed houses and heard women conversing. As he attempted to land his kayak, he encountered two Sentinelese men armed with bows and arrows. Despite greeting them with,
"My name is John, I love you, and Jesus loves you. Jesus Christ gave me the authority to come here to you. Here is some fish for you."
the men readied their arrows to shoot at him. In a panic, John hastily retreated. Several hours later, he made another attempt, this time heading to the North Shore. Observing about 6 Sentinelese individuals on the island, he heard them shouting in a language unknown to him. Unable to communicate, John attempted to mimic their sounds and shouted back. However, the Sentinelese people laughed at his efforts. Despite maintaining a safe distance, he proceeded to leave gifts for them, including a child and a young girl carrying bows and arrows nearby. John stepped off from his kayak and attempted to communicate with the child. While explaining some verses of the Bible to the child, a Sentinelese man stealthily took his kayak from behind. Seconds later, the child aimed an arrow at John's chest, which luckily struck the Bible, sparing John's life. In a panic, John attempted to flee. However, lacking his kayak, he managed to swim back to the boat under threat. During the night, he penned in his diary,
"Lord, is this island Satan's last stronghold? Is this place inhabited by beings unfamiliar with Jesus' name?"
Continuing to write, he expressed,
"I fear death. I must return. Lord, spare me."
However, his fervent devotion turned into an obsession, compelling him to believe that returning to the island was his life's purpose. On November 16th, 2018, he composed a letter to his family stating,
"You might consider me mad, but I believe it's crucial to introduce Jesus to these people. Should I meet my demise, please do not hold these people accountable."
Having written this, he embarked once more for North Sentinel Island on his boat, never to return. The local fishermen who accompanied him observed the Sentinelese burying a body from a distance. Identifying the clothes, he realized it was John Allen Chow's body. North Sentinel Island is part of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, comprising a total of 572 islands, with only 38 inhabited and 12 accessible to tourists. The islands are segregated into 3 districts: North and Middle Andaman, South Andaman, and Nicobar. The capital, located in South Andaman, is Port Blair, situated approximately 50 kilometers from North Sentinel Island. Covering an area of 60 kilometers, it is a small island blanketed by dense forest. The inhabitants, known as the North Sentinelese, are named as such by outsiders. However, their self-designation remains unknown. It is believed that approximately 70,000 years ago, a group migrated from Africa, referred to as the Out of Africa theory. These first modern humans journeyed from East Africa to Yemen, subsequently traversing the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, East Asia, and finally settling on these islands, including Australia. Over millennia, humans in the Middle East, India, and Southeast Asia intermixed due to similar terrain facilitating movement. Conversely, those who settled on remote islands remained isolated from the rest of the world. The North Sentinelese tribe purportedly arrived on this island between 10,000 to 30,000 years ago, becoming isolated and detached from the global community since then. It means they never learned farming, which was discovered about 12,000 years ago. Living on this island, they might have never felt the need for farming, or might not even know it exists. This makes them the last tribe living like they are in the Stone Age, with a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. They don't grow food, but pick fruits, hunt animals, and fish for their meals. They are the most isolated tribe globally because they prefer to stay isolated. Every attempt from the outside world to contact them has usually resulted in violence. The oldest written record we have of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands dates back to the 2nd century AD. A Roman mathematician named Claudius Ptolemy described these islands as the Islands of Cannibals, not specifically referring to North Sentinel Island, but to the entire archipelago. Later in history, a Chinese traveler in 673 AD mentioned that the islanders were cannibals, implying they consumed human flesh. Arab travelers during the 8th and 9th centuries also reported the same. In the 11th century, during the reign of King Raja Chola, inscriptions on a temple suggested that these islands were considered impure and inhabited by cannibals. Regarding North Sentinel Island, the first known mention was in 1771 when an East India Company ship passed by and spotted lights on the island. In 1867, an Indian merchant ship carrying around 100 passengers met with an accident on the island's shore. Survivors were attacked by the Sentinelese, but were fortunately rescued by the British Royal Navy. This incident marked the first known attack by the North Sentinelese on outsiders. In 1880, a British official named Maurice Vidal Portman attempted to establish contact with the Sentinelese to civilize them. By then, the British had made friendly contact with other tribes in the Andamans, communicating with them successfully. Portman took people from other Andamanese tribes, hoping they could help communicate. However, the language of the North Sentinelese was so distinct that they couldn't understand each other. During his visit, Portman encountered an elderly couple and 4 children. He decided to abduct them and took them to Port Blair. Unfortunately, the elderly couple died shortly after arriving due to being cut off from the outside world for so long. Feeling remorse, Portman returned the children to the island, offering them gifts as an apology. It's very likely that the children brought back germs and bacteria that were completely new to the island, potentially causing infections and deaths among the inhabitants. Our bodies often develop immunity to diseases over time because our ancestors were regularly exposed to these illnesses. However, the people on North Sentinel Island remained cut off from the rest of the world and were not exposed to new diseases, hence lacking immunity. The incident involving Portman is thought to be a major reason for the North Sentinelese people's hostility towards outsiders. Several expeditions were conducted to the island afterward. In 1967, Triloknath Pandit led the first official anthropological visit, comprising a team of 20 members, including scientists, armed forces personnel, unarmed Navy members, and the governor. Although they followed the Sentinelese footprints for about 1 kilometer, they found no humans and left gifts such as coconuts, pots, pans, and iron tools before departing. In 1970, an official research team declared the North Sentinel Island as part of Indian territory by setting up a stone tablet. In 1974, an Indian film crew, accompanied by armed forces and Triloknath Pandit, visited the island. They left coconuts and even brought a live pig as a gift, but the locals reacted aggressively. They attacked the crew with bows and arrows, injuring the film director, Prem Vaidya, and killing the pig, burying it in the sand. Subsequently, Triloknath Pandit made numerous attempts throughout the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, repeating the same cycle of gifting pigs and other items, only to have the tribe kill the offerings and bury them. Once, they even presented a doll, which was also attacked with an arrow and buried. In 1981, the merchant ship Primrose, traveling from Bangladesh to Australia, got stranded on the island due to a storm. The Sentinelese attempted to attack the passengers, but due to weather conditions, their arrows missed the targets, sparing the stranded individuals. They sent out distress calls and somehow managed to survive near the ship. A week later, a helicopter rescued them. This incident was a major moment in the history of the North Sentinelese because it was the first time they had ever seen iron. They discovered iron during this time. Afterwards, whenever people made contact with the North Sentinelese, it was noticed that they started using iron in their bows and arrows, which they scavenged from this ship. You can find this shipwreck on Google Maps, located to the north of North Sentinel Island. The next significant event occurred in 1991. This marked the first time the North Sentinelese had a friendly encounter. An expedition led by Indian anthropologist Madhumala Chattopadhyay went without any weapons and offered coconuts. This time, the Sentinelese accepted the coconuts. Perhaps it was because a woman had gone to meet them, whereas all previous expeditions were by men. There was something remarkable about this friendly contact. The team returned, and the next day, a Sentinelese man aimed his bow and arrow at them. He seemed ready to shoot at any moment. However, a Sentinelese woman stepped forward, pushed down the arrow, indicating he shouldn't shoot the outsiders. He obeyed and buried his weapon in the sand. This allowed the expedition members to step onto the land for the first time and personally give the coconuts to the Sentinelese. Another expedition took place about a month later. Triloknath Pandit and Madhumala led it together. And once again, the Sentinelese didn't use any weapons. They left their boats, and the Sentinelese received the coconuts in a friendly manner. However, this was the last time the Sentinelese were so friendly toward the outside world. After 1991, every attempt to contact the Sentinelese people resulted in violence. But the reasons for this shift in behavior remain unknown. Despite a brief period of friendliness, they reverted to hostility. Consequently, The Indian government imposed a ban in 1997, realizing the futility of attempting communication when the Sentinelese showed no interest. They live peacefully and should be left undisturbed. The government adopted an observation-only policy to monitor the tribe and provide assistance if needed, but refrained from interference. Currently, there are divided opinions on whether to establish contact with them. Some advocate for introducing them to modern technologies and development, believing they could benefit from these advancements. Conversely, others argue for protecting their isolation, considering their peaceful coexistence. In my opinion, I lean toward the latter option due to several compelling reasons. Firstly, contact with the outside world may expose them to diseases against which they have no immunity, risking their survival. Secondly, historical attempts to integrate isolated tribes have often led to adverse consequences. For instance, the Jarawa tribe's contact with the modern world in the 1970s resulted in struggles to adapt. Some faced health issues, like obesity, due to changes in diet, while others became addicted to substances introduced to them, unaware of their harmful effects. Furthermore, integration into modern society could lead to the loss of their culture, language, and traditions, which have been cherished for generations. This has been observed in other tribes in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, where their cultural heritage is diminishing rapidly. Maintaining and strengthening contact might pose significant dangers, potentially eradicating their entire community. Preserving their isolation might be crucial to safeguard their unique way of life